Am I the asshole for giving my son non-vegan food behind my wife's back? I am 32M, and my wife is 33F. We have been married for 8 years and have a 12-year-old son together. About 6 years ago, my wife decided to go vegan. She was sent the documentary Dominion by a vegan friend of hers and ever since has said non-vegan food is revolting and refuses to eat it. After a long conversation, I agreed to go vegetarian and be vegan in the house and around her, which she was happy with. She also decided our son should be vegan, which after seeing a dietitian I also agreed with. Things have been fine with this arrangement until a few months ago when I began finding wrappers from non-vegan candy and even burgers from McDonald's in my son's school bag which he had been buying with chore money. I had a conversation with my son and he confessed he felt lonely and excluded eating vegan around his friends and that they always had much better candy than he did and it wasn't fair. I decided I didn't want him spending his pocket money on snacks and throwing out the vegan snacks we actually brought them instead of buying games etc. It made no sense, but I also know the way my wife feels about non-vegan products. So, I began buying my son what he wanted on our way to football practice instead. Long story short, my wife recently found out what has been going on and completely flipped out. She called me an animal abuse enabler and a few other names and said I was corrupting our son. Now she is not speaking to me. Our son panicked and told her IHAD bought the snacks for him and he didn't know they weren't vegan. I don't blame him for that. He just doesn't want to be in trouble with mom. Am I the asshole here? Am I the asshole for shutting down a girl's attempt to diagnose me with an eating disorder? I lost my left leg when I was very young from a hospital-acquired infection. I have a prosthetic leg which I use for walking and another one for running and exercise. When I was on my parents' health insurance growing up, I got refitted regularly as I grew up. Now I'm too old to be on my parents' insurance, and while my company's insurance is considered very good, getting a new leg or getting adjustments for body weight changes are still expensive. I expect to be paying a fortune if I get pregnant. So I try my best to stay the same weight, and if I gain some weight I can immediately feel it becoming less comfortable to walk. Anyway, a friend's GF and I were talking and she began remarking on how I'm not eating much. We were out to dinner and I just was having a soup and salad and everyone else was having baby back ribs. I'd stolen a few of my BF's plate but generally IWAS trying to eat light. I said I was trying to lose a few pounds and she immediately assured me IWAS beautiful the way I was and I didn't need to lose weight. I told her I know I am but losing weight helps with my mobility. She began diagnosing me with an eating disorder, saying I must have a delusion I was very heavy and having issues walking. I was pissed and she sounded super condescending and blurted out she had no business talking down to me about my weight even if it was to tell me not to change it. The other people overheard and the GF got really embarrassed and left with my friends soon after. My BF thinks I should have explained why I need to keep my weight the same but I don't think I should have to pull out my disability to get her to shut up. With long loose pants it's often hard to tell I have a prosthetic leg. I don't know if she knew booty didn't feel like justifying why my weight needed to stay the same. But am I the asshole for shutting down her attempts to diagnose me with an eating disorder? Am I the asshole for not moving from a spot someone wanted to propose on? One of my hobbies is to go hiking and eat a very large meal while sitting down. Basically a picnic for myself. I bring a blanket and anything else I might need for an hour-long experience. This past Monday I was up at a new area I'd never been to. I brought my large meal with me and set upon a very gorgeous area with a great view of the lake. I was about 5 minutes into my ritual when this guy with a camera comes and tells me that a couple was coming up to do a proposal on this very spot and asked me to move. I told him no, that I barely got set up and I was in the middle of my meal. He gets annoyed and just asks again, but I tell him now. A few minutes later, photographer returns with the guy who was going to propose. The guy proposing asks me this time and I just tell him no, that he can wait. He asks me TF is wrong with me and I just tell him that I am eating my meal. He starts telling at me to GTFO booty, put on my headphones and just continue eating. After a while he leaves me alone. After I felt satisfied from the meal I packed U-Pan and was heading down. The three were waiting at another spot and the men point me out and the lady starts yelling at me that I ruined her day and that the proposal happened elsewhere instead of the spot he was in. I just smiled and said congrats on your proposal and kept walking. When I got back home this came up and I told my boyfriend about it. He straight up said it was an asshole thing to do. Am I the asshole for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding dress after she ruined mine? Hey Reddit, long-time lurker, first-time poster. This situation has been eating me up and I'd really appreciate some outsider perspectives. So, my 28F sister, 26F, and I have had our UP sand downs, as most siblings do. However, we've been really close the past few years, and I was so excited to have her as my maid of honor for my wedding last year. Flashback to my wedding day. I had this beautiful dress that I spent a fortune on. After the ceremony and during the reception, I noticed some red wine had been spilled on the bottom of my dress. I was devastated. I later found out from a bridesmaid that my sister had accidentally knocked over her wine glass when she was trying to take a funny photo. She didn't come forward about it and didn't even apologize when I confronted her. Fast forward to now. My sister is getting married and she's fallen in love with a dress that's way out of her budget. She asked if I'd help her pay for half of it as her wedding gift. I flat-out refused. I brought up how she ruined my dress and didn't take responsibility, and I feel like I shouldn't have to contribute towards hers. Now my family is divided. Half of them think I'm being petty and that I should let go of past grudges. The other half thinks I'm justified. So, am I the asshole for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding dress after she ruined mine? Am I the asshole for telling my daughter that life doesn't stop for others because hers isn't going well? I have 3 kids, and my daughter, 27F, hasn't had the best luck in her romantic life. She's gotten cheated on many times, and her previous relationship were unhealthy. I also believe she's in a toxic relationship with her current boyfriend. My nieces and nephews, along with my other kids, Ariel happily married, some starting their own families. It was my sister's birthday recently, and she and her husband had planned the trip for the family. She helped with expenses if needed, but for the most part everyone paid for themselves. My daughter was the only one going by herself. We did things as family, but there were times when we split up to do something with just our partners. So sometimes my daughter was by herself or basically being a third wheel. At the end of the trip my daughter complained to me how she hated going on the trip. That she felt like it was a cruel joke that she was there by herself, and that the others should not have shown affection to their partners when she was around. This is not the first time she complained about something like this. She's done it after holidays and birthdays as well. I'll admit I'm tired of my daughter complaining about this. So I told her that just because her life isn't going well doesn't mean others will stop living theirs. She hasn't talked to me since, and that was almost 2 weeks ago. My husband is on my side, but I'm worried I'll lose my daughter. Am I the asshole? Edit. She was allowed to bring a friend. Edit 2. My daughter isn't single. She has a beef. Edit 3. Thank you for the responses. I didn't expect so many. I plan to try and reach out to my daughter and talk. Am I the asshole for telling my sister why bluntly she's not the next guardian of our new baby if something happens to me or my husband? Me and my husband recently had our first child. After IVF treatments, thousands and thousands of fertility, and a few miscarriages, we had her. Our family is proud and it's just such a blessing to have her. Our family, my mom and dad and my 2 sisters and their sons and kids, gather every other Sunday for lunch where grandma cooks and everyone can relax and the kids can play. I was holding my daughter when business came up. Me and my husband own a business in insurance, an ECT. My parents are REIThy beneficials if something ever happened, God forbid. My husband has disavowed his family since he was 16, so it's just my side. One of my sisters, let's call her Kay, suddenly said, "That's weird. Why are our parents the ones to inherit money if something happened to us when they are older and retired, have their money, while she is struggling to pay her bills?" Kay has been engaged for the last 11 years to a man that's 25 years her senior and is very odd. She had 5 kids by him. She and her family gets evicted yearly due to the damage they do to the apartments and are overall struggling. In my opinion, something that they do to themselves. She refuses to work and allows her kids to rampage. She's also recently gotten in trouble legally because she was selling her food stamps for cash and was caught. I immediately tried to change the subject, but my mom didn't notice and said, "Well, now with baby, if anything happens, well, adopt her and the business." My sister snapped and demanded why she wouldn't be the next in line to raise the baby, in the event me and my husband's death. I tried to change the subject again. She demanded why I'd trust our 70-year-old parents with a baby over her, an experienced mother. I snapped too. I told her how she's getting evicted every 6 months, how every time she thinks her boyfriend is about to leave her she gets pregnant. Years ago, she had a CPS case opened against her for leaving 2 of her toddlers in a running car at a gas station. I had some low blows, I admit. Her kids are always dirty, snot down their faces, knotted hair. Their teeth are rotting out of their heads. She gathered her kids and left. My other sister sent a not cool text, and my family had 2 members that died in 9/11s, and we have a family gathering every year, so my parents are asking me to apologize and put this behind us so we can focus on that tomorrow. No. I am sick of it. She's calling out my new parenting when she's barely hanging on? She used to drop her kids off on our doorstep, barely clothed, and then return the next morning. And she's upset I don't want to give her guardianship if me and my husband's death happens? Am I the asshole for being mad over double standards in my marriage? A week ago I asked my daughter, 8, to quickly watch her brother, 10 months, while I picked up somethings from the floor that I had been working on during his nap. She rarely gets asked to watch him, as I feel that he's my job, not hers. Hubby came home and saw that she was watching baby and went off on me about how I was irresponsible, accidents happen quickly and she wouldn't know what to do in a choking event. These are all reasonable fears, so I made the necessary changes to ensure I am there to watch him at all times. Today, Sunday, I asked him to watch baby as I started baking a large order. I came into the room and noticed he was alone watching TV. I asked him where baby was and he replied that our daughter was watching him in her bedroom. Her bedroom is on the opposite side of the house, and with the TV blaring you could definitely notice what was going on in her room. I pointed out to him how he yelled at me last week for the same thing and he replied, that was different. When asked how, he replied, she wants to look after him. She came to ask me if she could. I was so mad. I didn't leave them alone for prolonged periods of time. I was literally in and out of the room during all of that time as I was cleaning up, but that was neglectful and dangerous because I asked her to watch baby. While at the same time it is perfectly okay for her to be left, completely alone, rooms away, with the TV on, because she asked to watch him, so somehow that would mean that she pays closer attention to him? Like accidents don't happen when you choose to look after a baby? He is now mad at me, saying I am overreacting and that I am still in the wrong while he is not. I accept that I was wrong in asking her to watch him, but am I wrong for being mad about the double standards?